Good morning. You are probably wondering, how did they manage to get her up there? I am wondering myself as well. As a recruiter, I do tons of presentations. It's not the people I'm afraid of, it's the cameras I don't enjoy. But nonetheless, I am here. Suffice it to say that Tacy and Dr. Pollard had something to do with it. So let's make it count. This morning, I have had the distinct pleasure of moderating a panel on social justice and on innovation. As you know, the increasing cultural linguistics, developmental, and other types of diversity of school communities, along with the ambition to achieve high academic standards for everyone, raises important questions about how faculty can support the participation and the achievement of all our students, as well as how the college can provide support for our faculty and students, given the realities facing community colleges today. Our panel members this morning represent some of the extraordinary efforts being made by many members of our faculty who are committed to supporting the participation and achievement of all of our students. Please help me welcome Professor Shinta Hernandez, Professor Emily Rosado, and Professor Vedham Karpakakunjaram. I'm impressed too. Okay, I understand we're going to be doing this view style, so I will join them on the table here. Okay. And I'm going to ask first that each professor introduce themselves briefly, tell us what you do, and there you go, you're all set. Tell us how long you've been at the college. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Shinta Hernandez. I have been at the college this week actually marks my 11th year as a college employee. I am Associate Professor of Sociology and the Interim Department Chair of Sociology, Anthropology, and Criminal Justice at the Rockville and Tacoma Park Silver Spring campuses.
Hi guys, I'm Emily Rosado and I'm an English professor at the Rockville campus, and this is my 10th year as a full-time faculty. I started in Germantown campus though, and I was an adjunct there for 3 years.
Good morning. I'm Vedham Karpakakunjaram. I've been with Montgomery College for about 8 years, of which 6 years as full-time. I teach biology at Rockville campus.
Thank you. So some of these questions have come from our students and parents during the onboarding process. And I will start with Professor Hernandez. Tell us about your philosophy of teaching and how innovation and social justice fit in it.
Sure. As a macro sociologist, my teaching philosophy is grounded in equity, access, and success. I'm a firm believer that students from all walks of life should have equitable access to higher education. Our teaching must and should be adaptable to the transformative learning environment, the changing student demographic population, and just the variable social circumstances that we are exposed to each and every day. As a faculty member, I have considered very innovative and perhaps revolutionary pedagogies and student success strategies, some of which were already mentioned earlier by Dr. Pollard. I'm a firm believer of embedding support services into the classroom so that students have access to resources and to help. I'm a firm believer of the open educational resources and Z courses and Z degrees to give access to our students from day one. But I also want to talk about something that is more current in my role, which is as interim department chair, I strongly encourage and support faculty who wish to implement innovative strategies in their teaching. And one example that I think some of you or many of you probably have heard of it already, and if you have a Twitter account, you definitely may have heard of this. And if you don't, take a look at it. It's the #LoveYou challenge that has gone viral in such a short period of time. And this came to my table when one of my part-time sociology instructors came to me, Dr. Leslie Sobilski, who said, I want to talk about love in his introduction to sociology classroom. And I thought, okay, well, this can go in a lot of different directions. And so I was a little nervous, but nonetheless, I listened to him and heard him out and helped him through the process. And almost instantly, this is a good example of just someone who wanted to use something so basic and so inexpensive in teaching about sociology. And just to give you an idea of how viral this has gone, MCTV did a production on it, NBC4 did a coverage on it. It's going to go to Voice of America if it hasn't already gone there. There's some conversation about this project going to the Black Rock Center for the Arts in Germantown. The World Bank and the United Nations are supporting this, and there's also conversation about this project going to the Ellen DeGeneres show. Yeah. So yeah, and I want to commend, yes, I want to commend Dr. Lezik-Sibilski. I don't know if you're here, if you're watching, but congratulations on your overnight success and congratulations to your students.
Professor Rosado, the same question. Tell us about your philosophy in teaching and how innovation and social justice fit into it.
Sure. I would say that I also believe strongly in access for all students, and that has driven some of the projects that I've worked on throughout my time at the college, including teaching online and using open educational resources. I think the three of us all do that. But really, my goal is to challenge my students to stretch their thinking, and incorporating issues focusing on social justice is a really great way that I've found to do that. Exposing them to issues that they perhaps may have never thought about really opens their eyes to some of the things that are going on around us. And I feel that they are really receptive to learning about different issues. And just to give you an example, I like to show a lot of documentaries in my class because everyone likes watching movies. But I show a documentary called The True Cost. And it's a really great film that explores some of the devastating human and environmental costs of the fashion industry, and it really opens students' eyes to how our need for cheap and trendy clothing has really led to some devastating consequences for the people who work in those industries. And I've had a student approach me at the end of the semester last semester, and she said that she never really thought about, when she went shopping and was looking at a shirt or something and like, oh yeah, it's $5, let me get it. She never really thought about, the person who made that and the conditions that they were working in, and maybe the diseases that they have contracted from the chemicals that, they've had to breathe in those factories. So I think that, just kind of challenging them to think outside of kind of their realm or their little bubble here in Montgomery County has been really beneficial and rewarding for me as well as a faculty to kind of see how their thinking changes over the course of the semester.
Professor Karpakakunjaram, would you like to share on that?
Sure. So I acknowledge that, especially in our college, students come with diverse backgrounds and at all levels. The diversity spans across all levels. I particularly address the diversity in learning styles, and so it's I realize with each semester how important it is to move away from a traditional lecture-based delivery of content and try to embrace all the different learning styles that students come with so that we help them to succeed in the courses they are in. Being in science, I also use the scientific concepts to address social justice. And the more recent incidents like Charlottesville made me think about how to address, for example, human skin color from a scientific background, and how to address it from genetics point of view, from evolution point of view, and make students understand the myth behind the skin color.
We might have you in your class next semester. All right, let's start now with Professor Rosado. What factors drive you to push boundaries in implementing innovative ideas?
I feel like I'm willing to try anything that will benefit the students. So I think that started back in my early days about 13 years ago when we were just getting our online English classes off the ground. And that's been really rewarding to give access to those students who, due to scheduling conflicts or maybe transportation issues, may not have had a chance to come to campus to take classes. Also, the three of us have done a lot of work in OER, and as Dr. Pollard had mentioned, we are offering Z courses now that are available to the student without textbook costs. So I'm excited that all 4 of my classes are now Z courses. One of my students last semester told me that she actually gave part of her financial aid check to one of her friends because her friend couldn't afford her textbooks. So, these are the things that our students are facing and struggling with. So I think it's been really important. My students really appreciate the fact that I've made the effort to switch over to Z courses and still have robust materials, but to give them access to materials that don't cost anything. Also, this semester, I'm excited to have embedded coaches in my class for the first time through the Achieving the Promise Academy. So hopefully that will go well. I'm really excited about it and to work with some of my colleagues over there. And yeah, I think that it's important to be open to change and to I feel that teaching well is a lot of trial and error and trying out different things. And I think that not being afraid to fail and to have something not work is important, because I think that's how we discover, some of the best strategies is by just trying different things out.
Excellent. Professor K, what conditions do you try to create and maintain inside and outside of the classroom to help all students thrive? And how do you create these conditions? You gave us a real nice example just recently, but if you'd like to expand on that.
Sure. Just to give you an overview of how I structure my course, right on the first day of the semester, I start with an icebreaker activity where I give a chance for students to know each other, but most importantly, from a selfish point of view, I like to know as much as I can about my students starting from the day one. And it should work both ways. So I also participate as part of the activity with the students, and I try to give as much information about myself. One thing I add to that is add questions few questions which will start making me think about how I address different students' needs. For example, I ask them about their career goals. In an introductory class, you will get a student population with many different goals for their careers, and so how to address that based on meeting the learning outcomes or the course outcomes, and at the same time also helping them succeed. And I don't just stop with that, I try to expand on that, keep the activities going as frequently as possible. So even though at the beginning I get to see some students frowning because they're asked to talk to each other in the class or talk to me, and it kind of, some students feel strange the way I handle this, but I realize that most of them get used to that because I kind of make it an expectation from my side for them to be engaged in the classroom more often, more naturally than kind of being imposed on them in more artificial way.
I know this to be true. It's just dawned on me. You are Professor K. I've had a student come to my office to talk about that experience. My daughter attends the college, and I remember seeing her midway through the semester, and she was excited about going to your class. Now, she didn't say Karpakakunjaram like I can say it, but I do recall her saying, and I remember asking her, I didn't think you liked biology. She said, yeah, but this professor's cool. He makes me want to be in this class, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Professor Shinta Hernandez. In my role as a recruiter, I visit a lot of students, and we met one of those students today, Ricky Campos, and he shared his experience through DACA, TPS, and as a dreamer. How do you anticipate addressing the effects on our students and helping to ensure that our college is truly a welcoming, equitable, and inclusive place where students feel safe?
I'm a big proponent of institutions such as Montgomery College working collaboratively. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to engage in a concerted effort for all the different units and areas and divisions to be able to assist students who are going to be impacted by these program changes, something as simple as all players of this institution knowing what the resources and services are that we provide at the college, to helping our students get to those resources, knowing who to call, where to go on the internet, that sort of thing. If we can direct them to the appropriate places like the welcome centers, disability support services, the counseling and advising, and all the tons of services and resources that we offer here at the college, I think that is an excellent way for, say, student affairs and academic affairs to work together so that the impact of these programs and the changes will be minimized as much as possible. I think we have a responsibility as members of this public institution, but also as members of this community, to ensure that all of our students have a place that they can call home.
Mm-hmm. Professor Rosado, I would anticipate that most of what you do is similar. Is there anything else you'd like to share on how you work with DACA, TPS, and Dreamer students?
Well, I've had students express concern and also confusion over, what's happening. It's really hard for them to understand, why, and what's the reasoning and, behind, making changes to this program. But I just find it really important to let them know that I am their ally as their instructor, and that Montgomery College is also their ally. And again, like Shinta said, just directing them to our counselors and to our resources. And also, I am trained in mental health first aid, and that has come in really handy, and I recommend that training for anyone. Sometimes we have students that find themselves in a state of crisis, and being able to help them and know, the first steps to kind of like helping them to regroup and to find a balance, and so they can get help, I think is really important. So that's just one of the things in my toolbox.
Great. Professor K, would you like to elaborate on your work with Dreamers, DACA, and TPS recipients?
I make frequent announcements, and I clearly tell them I'm not an expert. I can't directly help them in this, but I direct them to the resources we have in the college where they can seek help.
Fantastic. Now, how have you gotten outside of your comfort zone, Professor Hernandez, when it comes to your work as a faculty member, and where would you like to grow this year?
So as I stated in my introduction, I've been here 11 years, but it really wasn't until about 4 years ago that I had the courage to step out of my comfort zone. And when I did that, it was when I started to engage in conversations and consequently do some work outside of my discipline and outside of my department. I said earlier that I'm a big proponent of holistic approaches to student success and collaborative approaches to student success. I think it's important for me, particularly, but all of us, to remember that each one of us is a piece of a much larger puzzle, that each one of us is a cog of a much larger machine. Where I would like to grow this year, as interim department chair, I want to continue supporting my faculty and staff in implementing innovative ways to their teaching strategies. I think it's important for all of us to make sure that our students know how to be agents of change. If we empower the learner in this whole process, if we use non-conventional methods and give them the tools necessary for them to improve their communities using or through their academic studies, then I think we will have done justice to higher education in the 21st century.
All right. Professor K, how have you gone outside of your comfort zone, and how would you like to grow this year?
Sure. As often as possible, I try to practice saying I don't know. I practice it with my 8-year-old, who gets very disappointed when he hears, how can you not know this? So I tell my students, the hardest thing for a professor to stand in front of 24 students and tell, when a student asks a question, to tell that I don't know the answer is the most difficult thing, most challenging thing, to be outside your comfort zone. But I also tell them, I will try and find the answer. I don't know the answer right now, but I will try and find the answer for you. And I think that kind of convinces them that, okay, he's as human as I am. So kind of helps them to relate with me. And I tell them a lot of personal stories about how sometimes I have failed as a student. And one failure is not something that determines what you are. And I think that kind of helps them to relate with the professor and not just look at me as Mr. Know-all or thing. So that's one of the challenging things I had to learn.
So how do you intend to grow this year? You're going to start to say, I know more this year?
Know more now than what I knew yesterday.
Okay, good. Professor Rosado, how have you gotten outside of your comfort zone and how you intend to grow this year?
Well, I am proud to be working with Dr. Bland for the next couple years on the Committee on Equity and Inclusion, so I'm really excited about that. I'm like one of those students who hates group work. Like, no, I'd rather do it myself. So, leading a committee with colleagues is putting me out of my comfort zone, but I'm really excited about it, looking forward to it. Also, I just got back from a study abroad trip with the Maryland Community College International Education Consortium. And that was really amazing, and I hope to design a program for our students abroad because I really believe in just the invaluable experience in studying in a different culture. Even if it's short term, I think that the students can learn so much from doing that. So hopefully I can manage to make a plan for that this year.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the questions I have for our panelists, so please help me thank them.
Thank you.